Welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is episode 5 of the epic rescue of the search and rescue utility boat. If you watched the last episode, you know where we left off. Half the boat base was filled with foam. We're at about 8 cubic feet out of the 21 and change that are required at a minimum for the type of weight that I want this boat to handle. So we're just going to jump right into it. We're going to fill up the other half and get on to installing the subfloor.
Just for the sake of capturing it, because I know I'm going to regret it if I don't. This right here is a really great analog for your hull. And this foam, right, sticking to the sides of the inside of the bowl, it's kind of the same way that the foam is stuck to the insides of the hull. Now, when your boat flexes, you hear all that? All of that crunchiness creates separation. And that creates gaps where water seeps in. It doesn't have the ability to get out. I wonder, and maybe somebody can leave a message in the comments, right? Like, when you break this off, you see that chunk that comes off of there? That's no longer closed. That's now open cell. So I don't know. There's a method to the madness. But I suspect that this is one of the reasons why foam gets waterlogged. This shit is no joke. It took about 45 minutes of just straight work. Let me take a break. There's my 4-foot mark, and I want to make sure that I'm set up so that I've got overlap on both boards. I should be good to go. Now when we mounted this up, we made sure that we left a very, very clear crease line, and it's that crease line that I'm lining up with the edge of the board. You're useless, tape. Man, it would be nice if I got this right on the first try. It's not going to happen. But it would be nice. Okay, Gorilla Tape. Think I'm screwing around? God damn. There. All of this is lined up. Now the Gorilla Tape won't stick? Are you kidding me? Nice crease to let us know where we stopped. Always a good idea to go a little bit proud of the edge of the template too, because it's better to have too much than too little. You can always shave it down if you need to. Don't tear your template. I'm going to mark this as a top. I always know that this face is supposed to be facing up. Next. All right. Well, that's not too bad, is it? So we are flushed up to our rear line. A little bit I got to trim off right there. See how it's a little bit proud, sits up on top of that little lip. Got to shave that down half a red skosh. Can I shift it over here? Hey, look at that. But if I do that, it renders the whole thing cattywampus. I want a nice flush line with that angle aluminum right here so that I've got something to mount to. My plan is for all of this back here to stay open and exposed. But I'm gonna carry over the top deck. So I've got like a wooden flap level with the bench seating and all that other stuff that'll just flip down. But I want all of this to be in line so that I can build the framework for it and just be able to anchor right to the angle right there. This side is looking good. I think everything's pretty much looking good all the way to the end. I'm gonna mark all my spots where I need to trim, and then we're gonna move on to the next board.
Oh.
Right in my shot.
Sorry, honey.
My wife wants to be in the videos. Improvise. Yeah, number 2. Okay. There's a little bit of give in it, but I think once the rivets go in, it'll be good. Oh, garage door. Last piece. Well, look at that.
But generally, I think we're looking pretty good, especially down at the end. But we still have this issue, which is that I don't know where to put the rivets. So we're gonna take all these off, get them ready for sealing, and we're gonna put that template back on so that we know where to drill our holes. All right, so we are flush up against the back rail. We are flush up against the front rail. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch proud there, but we can just tap that and get it all lined up. Everything is looking pretty much the way that it should. Now, the method of my madness was going through and pre-drilling holes so that I could grab my drill bit, drop it down in that hole, and if I hear a tap, I know I'm touching metal. And if that's the case for every hole that's on here, then I know that I'm good to go on top of my framing with at least 2 points. And if I need to add more in between them, I've got what I need for a straight line. That's not too shabby. Only missed 2, and the 2 that I missed, I was still on aluminum. I think this is gonna work. I've been trying to think about this project in the same way that I think about framing a house. First thing you do is put up the sticks. Next thing you do, once the sticks are up, you sheathe the outside of it. Next thing you do is your electrical and your plumbing, and you do all the nicety stuff at the very end. But when you're putting up your sticks, you got to think about the dimensions of the sheathing that's going to be attaching to it. I didn't think about that, and as a result, let me show you. Right here where I've got this cross beam, the one that you saw me install in this video, I don't have anything in this corner to act as a support. Now I think that's going to be okay. I'm not really sweating it because I'm going to be able to rivet the hell out of the rest of this. And also because all of this is going to be storage, lightweight storage, where there's not much going on. I'll have another piece of aluminum going over the top to create the walls that are going to ride here. When you're framing, do yourself a favor and think about 4 feet on center. If you're going to be doing plywood, aluminum, whatever it is, instead of having to cut your pieces so that they specifically align wherever the gussets happen to be, think ahead and give yourself a joist that rides right at 4 feet or whatever dimensional lumber or aluminum you're going to happen to use. I think what I made here was just like a goober rookie mistake, and I'm okay with it, but that's maybe the biggest lesson that I've learned so far. The next step here is to go ahead and start sealing things up. We've got some 2-part marine epoxy off to the side. We're going to take these boards. We clearly marked the top. We are going to seal the underside. We're going to let that dry for a little while. We're also going to go ahead and, while that's drying, take advantage of the time to seal up and shape the foam that's on this side of the boat.
right, it's time to seal up the underside. We've gone ahead and done a rudimentary sanding, just enough to knock off all of the little fuzzies. Give it a once over with the airbrush, all that good stuff. What we're looking to do now is apply this two-part Total Boat epoxy resin. The trick here is to make sure that you're doing one full pump and it's 1-to-1. Now, this stuff is kind of pricey, and I went with it because I didn't want to take any chances. If there's one area that I didn't want to risk rotting out, I mean, everything else, we got the foam, we got the aluminum. Wood rots. I didn't want to take any chances with paint. I didn't want to take any chances with whatever. For this, I wanted to make sure that I got a good, high quality seal. Ripping this thing apart and doing all this over again, it just does not seem like it would be worth it. I'm using an inexpensive polyester brush. Try to get it around as evenly as I can. Now, these edges are going to be extremely thirsty. Yeah, I'm fairly certain I'm going to have no choice but to come back. This end grain, again, it's just going to soak this stuff up. But hopefully after the first coat, we've got a decent little seal going. But again, what do I know? Never used this stuff a day in my life.
Well, it's been drying overnight, and I am fairly confident that this is properly sealed. It's super thick in some spots, but there's still these little dings. Now that is 100% sealed up under there. It's just not as thick as the other spots. Here's another one of the pieces, and it definitely seems to me better to be safe than sorry. Hit up these spots with another coat and see what happens.
While we're waiting for the second coat of marine epoxy to dry on the boards, we're going to go ahead and address sealing up all of this foam. So you can see the tops have been cut off. I've gone ahead and I've shaped all of this stuff down. I've got my drain holes in various locations, and I've tried to pan this so that if water gets into this spot, the only place that it has to flow is towards the drain. I've already sealed that side of the boat, and I used the same marine epoxy that I used on the lumber for that, and I didn't like it. I mean, supposedly it's the best thing to use, but I didn't like it because it used so much of it. So I wanted to find something less expensive that would do the same job, and I found this stuff right here. This is elastomeric roof coating. I think I got this at Walmart. I do not like going to Walmart, but I got this at Walmart. This is $25 a gallon. It's designed to protect spray foam roofs. So that seems like it's an ideal product for what we're gonna go for here, and the price is right. I did ask around a little bit on a couple of different forums. The general consensus was that it would be perfectly okay for this. I've already done a test patch, because sometimes when you apply a coating to a foam, it'll break that foam down. This appears to be perfectly safe for it.
I gotta be honest, I'm feeling pretty good about this. There are a couple of weird spots though that came up through the pour. For example, right here, that's just an area where foam never went, and I have no idea how deep that little hole goes. But as far as the channel itself is concerned, I'm not super upset about it, and I don't need to do anything with my shower pan thing because this has already got a really nice even path. All I have to do is drill a hole through that foam right there, seal it up, and goes right down to my drainage gully. Same thing here. The foam just never expanded.
Well, there's not much more that we can do today. We gotta wait for this stuff to dry, and then come back and take a look at it tomorrow. Good to go.
Good morning. It's been, I don't know, 20 hours, and still not 100% dry.
So a couple things about me. One, I'm impatient, and two, very mildly obsessive when it comes to my projects. Being in a state like this where I'm just waiting for paint to dry absolutely drives me nuts. it puts me into this mental space where I'm just constantly thinking about the project. I'm constantly thinking about the next step. And it's hard sometimes to keep that like positive. You know what I mean? I've been thinking about this boat build like in terms of building a house, right? Like your first phase is digging and pouring your foundation. If your foundations are screwed up, then everything that you build off of that foundation is at risk. Now at this point in the project, we've spent a not insignificant amount of money. We're coming up on $2,000 spent, and this is where we are. So I'm particularly sensitive to making sure that I don't screw anything up. One of the things that's going to severely limit my enjoyment is to be worried about a thing that I knew I forgot. All of this to say that I tried to take all of that nervous energy that I've got to make a list of stuff that I know that I need to take care of before those first rivets go through these boards into that aluminum. You can help me. Let's go ahead and make that list now. Now, one of the issues that I know I'm a little bit concerned about is the size of the gap in that channel. I am using 15-30 seconds plywood. Now, I could have used 3/4 inch, but I wanted to save on the weight. I also wanted to save the money. And when I was reviewing the footage of having walked around on this thing last night, it really did look like there was a little bit more bowing going on than I was comfortable with. So I'm gonna put some additional cross members in at 2 feet from this end. And I'm gonna put one in the center between those two over there. So that way I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 center beams holding this up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on each one of the side channels. And it stands to reason that you would want to have all of that additional support in the middle, because the single heaviest object that's going to be on the boat, it's me.
You find a piece of candy in your pocket,
and I'm going to be moving around. And the place that I'm going to be moving around is right there in the center of that boat. I think I will feel much better about this project if I have that. Other things, all of this extra PEX material that's sticking out, I'd like for all that to be trimmed off. All the places where I trim the foam, that stuff probably could stand to be sealed up. We've got holes to drill in the tubing for our drainage ports. The first thing I need to deal with is this hole. I think I figured out this is where the aluminum channel runs down. When I poured this foam, it was about 5 or 10 degrees cooler than it was when I poured the foam on the other side. It was 70 degrees on the night that I did this. It was about 65 degrees on the night that I did this. And that had a significant impact on how this foam performed. Like I said before, I'm not super worried about gaps like this. I can just drill a hole in any of these spots and seal that up, and water will slough off and go directly into the drainage channel where I want it. But in spots like this, I have no, it's like a cavity in your tooth. You have no idea how deep that thing goes or what direction it goes in. So that needs to be filled. I think that's pretty much it. If I take those steps, at least if anything fails, it'll be something that I didn't think about or didn't know. And somehow that makes me feel better. All right, let's get going. Well, I didn't want to bore you all with going through all of the fine tuning and policing up and checking all of the last steps before we put the board down, but let me show you where we're at. We have a second coat of the elastomeric. This side is already good to go, all sealed up. I've put double-sided tape on all of the spots where rivets are sticking up because I figured that might give me just a little tiny bit more, protection. What I'm concerned about is that when I put the board on, even after the rivets go in, there's still going to be a certain amount of shimmy and shift in here. And having that tape there maybe buys me a little bit of saved wear and tear on the underside where I've just sealed up all that wood. Around on this side, we've got all of our little spouts have been trimmed. I've sealed up all the places where the foam was cut on this side. I made the mistake of doing that instead of just leaving it closed cell intact like I did on this side. All of my spouts have drain holes. We filled in that one great big pocket that was right there. And all of this is looking pretty surgical. We might be ready to put this floor on. God, I'm nervous. Okay, here we go. That's good. I know I'm gonna have to adjust that again.
Now, to secure the entire thing, I'm using these 1/8 inch shank, 1/4 inch. I want to say this is 3/4 of an inch deep. You got to make sure you get rivets that are long enough to go all the way through your plywood and through your angle before that rivet engages on the way back out. I went with 3/4 inch because I went with the 15/32 plywood. Should be plenty.
Shoe. I got everybody else though. Do you know a hospital doctor?
I'm trying really hard not to get too excited, but the floor is in.
I kind of gave up on countersinking because the bit that I have is too aggressive for that, and it was chewing right through that plywood. And I'm sure that I'm going to have to address some of this stuff as we go, but we are in and we are relatively level. So for frame of reference, here's my rail. It is pretty consistent throughout all of the, a little bit of a dip there.
We're gonna go ahead and clean this up, do a little vacuuming, and then we'll seal this up with that epoxy on the top side. And that'll be that. We'll be ready to start decking this thing out.
Well, I gotta say, I'm thrilled with the way this is going so far. The floor is in, it feels rock solid. Even though I had significant concerns about how stable it was going to be, we made some mistakes. We figured out how to get around them. We spotted errors before they became problems, and I hopefully didn't leave any of my tools in the hole. I'll have to go back and check the video on that. We're making progress. And from here, the next step is to start laying out exactly what we want our floor plan to be. I cannot wait. I've got some great ideas. And this thing is gonna be badass. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow along for the next episode, because things are about to get pretty creative here. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.